Happy Thursday. Happy just everything. Happy everything. Happy full moon. Happy all the good stuff. You are listening to Mornings with Megs. I am excited for today's episode. This one is an interesting one. I actually pre-recorded my first interview yesterday, which was so interesting and so cool. So I met with Pete Willis. He created Carma, which, it's just a really cool name, but it's Carma. So what it is basically it like compares a bunch of cars for you, and they actually like deliver it for you, and you can like pay insurance that if it's like not the vibe because you weren't able to test drive it in person. Like, it's a really cool service, and he gave us some very good tips as ladies to like not be pressured by a car salesman, and to do your research and what research you should do. So I have that coming up for you later in this episode. So if you're looking at, a new car on the horizon, apparently there's a truckload of them because of end of financial year. So I feel like now is a good time to buy. We're economically, we're economically living our best lives. So if you're in the market for a car, before you run into every dealership this weekend and waste your time and your effort and your energy, bear with me first, okay? So what else we are talking about today? Okay, so I actually should say, I know that you guys weren't expecting me live today, and because I forgot yesterday, I didn't actually update everyone and say I will be on live. I was originally going to fly out this morning, so I literally would have been in a plane now. And you know what? The universe dead set always has my back, okay? And I am just like convinced. I mean, not that I needed convincing, but it just continually shows me how and why and when and whatever. So I was meant to fly out 6:30 this morning, but I decided to fly out later because I wanted to kind of get some stuff done this morning, and it was like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So, and full disclosure, this packing situation for this long trip is really stressing me out. So anyway, so it's absolutely hammering at the moment. The weather is awful. So I can almost guarantee that my flight would have been delayed anyway, which would have put off my whole day. So touch wood, the weather kind of improves. I feel like I'm really not that behind. And I didn't have to get up at 3 o'clock this morning to be at the airport. I got to be on live with you guys. And I have probably half an hour scheduled this morning just to finalize all of the packing bits and pieces that I have to do. So so it's better. And then I'm still stressed as hell because again, I have to pack for 3 time zones, 3 different weather constituents. So but you know what, I'm going to share it with you. You're going to give me all of the packing vibes, and I'm still waiting for my packing fairy godmother to come into my life and tell me all the things. Okay, so what else I have for you this morning is, now I feel like this is going to anger some of my gals, but just bear with me. Men are quietly opting out of dating, okay? And I don't mean that they're all turning F-boys, okay? I have other information for you about that. We've been doing it for the longest time because, whatever. The other thing I want to talk about as well, and it is just so crazily timely that I'm talking about this today. Again, I prepped my episode for this last night and then just wanted to check in and just make sure this morning it's still relevant. And it is even it's 6:30 in the morning, right? And I've already had 2 instances where 2 of these topics are unbelievably timely. So let's talk about the friendship recession. And I want to really kind of dive into what people are saying. And this is not even just about loneliness. This is just about, I think, life gets busy, shit happens, and we like to use that as an excuse for the reason why we don't keep in contact with people on a regular basis and things like that. But yeah, I think we can probably, if we looked inward and really kind of called ourselves on it, I really feel like we know that we could definitely do better. And then finally, I have for you the loud budgeting. So obviously, this week has been a lot about money, because I am out here trying to educate myself and at the same time educate you listeners, because we all deserve to have the most amount of money in our pockets ever, and we deserve to have the most amount of financial literacy and the best energy when it comes to money. Okay, so I'm going to be talking through this trend because I think it is amazing. If you look at like 10 years ago, when the definition of rich in like according to society or according to like whatever was what car you drove, what house you had, what watch you had on, what clothes you wore, all of these things. Okay. So I feel like we've really kind of done a 180, which in the best way possible, because like truly, who wants to do that? And then I'm going to play you my interview with Pete. Like I said, he just gave so many good tips in this one. So if a new car is on your vision board or your wish list or on your to-do list for the coming months, have a listen to that, because he gave us some really, really good advice. And I think and this is very stereotypical, like this is generalizing at its finest, but I feel like we've kind of all had that car experience, like car salesman experience. And whilst I think that's changing, yeah, I mean, it's obviously changing. Like it's getting better. I feel like, I mean, it has to be, right? But yeah, I just feel like it's still, we go in with not enough education, and like you'll hear in the interview, like my dad, if I go and say like that I'm going to look at cars, he will insist on coming with me. Now I'm 37 years old. And the reason is because he knows that I'm going to get excited and that I'm going to literally like have blinders on when it comes to things that may be questionable with the car and may be, something that I really should be taking into account and things like that. So it's like having a dad talk to you or a man talk to you in non-mansplaining ways, giving you the insider word so that we can take on the car salesman. What I will say is car salespeople that are investing in their social media content, I am so here for. I've seen so many dealerships like have real fun trending TikToks and reels and stuff. And this is the stuff that makes us really see the human behind the brand, behind the business, behind the whatever. So keep that up, guys. We love it. We love it. Okay. Let's talk about the first thing on our to chat about list. Men are quietly opting out of dating. Okay, like I said, hear me out. So there's a post going around accusing single men of pretending to be happy alone. Millions of views because it's stung on both sides. So here's the spicy question. Are men and women actually incompatible now, or have we just started outsourcing our self-worth and calling it standards? Juicy. Juicy, juicy. Okay, so a viral wave of men are opting out content. So one post accusing single men of faking their contentment pulled millions of views. Parts of the manosphere reframe checking out of dating as peace. So what is potentially being disguised as like self-preservation is maybe literally just that. It's a bit of a disguise. So we also are this one I will actually happily talk into because I feel like I am in the best situation to talk about it. So we're calling it provider discourse. Okay. And you may already know what I'm talking about here. Okay. So men equals providers, women equals supported. It is pressuring both sides into rigid roles regardless of real circumstances. I love, 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 love the era of women coming through that are the breadwinners, that are earning the money, that are self-sufficient, that are all of these things. And I don't come at it from a gender bias perspective of like, you shouldn't rely on a man. You should like whatever. You do what you want to do as long as it is what you want for your life. But previously, I feel like there would be quite a lot of relationships that would continue where women and men weren't particularly happy, but it was just easier to stay together because of finances. So I don't know about you, but I don't really want to be somebody's choice because it was just easier to stay with me. And I don't want to stay with someone because it seemed easier. Like you're literally you're giving up happiness for comfort, which as we know, okay, comfort can be a trap. So yeah, sometimes doing the hard thing is absolutely the best thing. And we already know this. We absolutely already know this. So the divide is real and gendered. So 41% wouldn't date across opposing political views as well. Like it is wild to me. And I guess because I couldn't care less about politics. I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't. And I don't look. I don't know that I need to know more than I do. I don't know if my life is going to be negatively detrimented in any sort of way because I choose not to follow along politics. Truly, politics makes me so sad because I'm like, these people are running our country. Like, yikes. And, you know, what's his name? Albo is running our country at the moment. And I've always been a Labor voter purely because I'm pretty sure that's what my parents told me to do. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm voting for somebody because Labor are meant to be for the working people and the small businesses, which is me. And Liberals were always for like big corporates and stuff like that. But like, he's just an idiot. Anyway, unless it was like crazy left wing in terms of like they're happy to have campaign boards on their house and they actively talk outwardly about their political views. I just don't think it would be like bother me. And if somebody didn't want to date me because of like my lack of like F's given around politics, like that's a red flag for me anyway. But it is wild to me that that is a thing come up. And I thought this was a study out of the US, but this is like us Aussies. So wild. And finally, what people say they want cuts against the doom. So 64% say emotional honesty is what dating needs most. 60% want clearer communications of intentions. I mean, that should be no surprise to anybody because, like, how hard is it to just be honest? If it's like that movie, he's just not that into you. Okay. Like we can handle it. If you're not into us, that is fine. We will survive, but don't drag us along, because it's like it makes it worse for you. Like it's so much worse. So let's dive into it a little bit deeper. And I would love, love, love. I'm just making sure I can see comments because I'm not sure that I can. I just really want to make sure that I'm getting all of these because I feel like this is a super juicy episode that unless you have a hate comment about me, then I'm absolutely not interested in what you have to say about me. Because I had my first hate comment yesterday and it really pissed me off. So I know that mum will be in here. So mum, can you please just comment just so that I know that I'm seeing the comments this morning? Okay. So here is my take on this. And again, this is my personal opinion. I have no judgment or no whatever. Like I am truly of the thought process, you do you, boo. Whatever makes you happy, like do more of that. So I feel like a lot of what we call high standards is really just fear in a cuter outfit. That's what I feel. Okay. Love you, mum. My comments are working. Okay, fabulous. Thank you. So it's easier to opt out and be like, nah, like, oh, I just didn't like him, or like or to admit that we maybe, got rejected or whatever, because that hurts our egos. So it's easier to opt out than be seen and risk rejection. So we dress avoidance up as boundaries and call it self-worth. Obviously, we all have our protection mechanisms, and obviously, based on past events, you're going to need those because it's really important. But don't let it kind of taint your future or the potential for you to find those connections. If you're watching Love Island USA at the moment, you'll be like, connections, like she is dead ass in the thick of Love Island lingo, and it's true, I absolutely am. But it's true. Like, we've really got to find those connections with people. So real boundaries protect you, avoidance isolates you and slaps growth on it. And nobody wants to hear this. No partner can hand you a self-worth you refuse to build yourself. We know this. And it is the old saying of, if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else, and nobody else can love you. And the more I learn about things and life and whatnot, it is absolutely true, because your self-worth is literally what you're projecting into the sphere and to the world, right? Your self-worth literally is going to determine the types of people that come into your life based off of your vibe. So if that is a little bit lower than we might like, okay, we need to do a little bit of work on that. So protecting my peace is a gorgeous phrase and sometimes completely true. We know that protecting our peace is very, very important, because the vibes, right? We need to make sure that we, we've got the vibes we want. But sometimes the most sophisticated way we've ever invented to hide. Now I'm calling some people out here, and you're probably going to be triggered by this. I know, I was reading it and I was like, protecting my peace, like dating, absolutely not. Like I genuinely couldn't think of anything worse right now. Now, why I think this is hilarious and unbelievably topical for the time is because I had somebody, and I'm going to be super mindful and super high level here. So because just in case, okay, I had literally somebody this morning ask for one of my friend's numbers, or her Snapchat, more importantly. Now, when I say that to you girls, tell me the first thing that comes into your head. He asked for her Snapchat. What does this mean? Okay, if you know, you know. Now, if you asked me for her number, different situation. Okay, but you asked me for her Snapchat. Secondly, I messaged her and I was like, hey, he thinks you're cute. He remembers you from when he met you 3 years ago. Like, he seems to be a good dude. What do you think? And she's like, okay, he actually has my number. I offered it to him. He's been messaging me on Instagram. Why does he need my Snap? I already told him I don't have Snapchat. And I was like, okay, well, I just went out on a limb and look like an idiot now. And so I was like, bro, if you're gonna, get me to intro you to my friends and people that I care about in my life, at least give me the backstory. Like, she didn't say yes to your first advance. And so now you're like, let's find another way in. I'll message somebody I know that knows her and ask for her Snapchat, even though I've already got her number. Now, I could be overreaching here and baselessly um, accusing of something here, but I think I'm sort of on the money of things. So I think if we kind of look inward and be really honest that if we are setting standards or boundaries. Now, she has like literally one of the healthiest boundaries per, like, it's actually like Fort Knox. She is so sure of herself, and it's one thing I've always really admired about her is that she is happy to call men on their bullshit. And she may kind of go a little bit like, I mean, she's definitely more forward and more vocal than I could ever be, I think. And, you know, she's actually the most fun to be around. It's the funniest thing when you go out with her because she is drop dead gorgeous, right? She is absolutely stunning. She has a killer bod and she just has this personality that is just like sucks you in. So I love when I see her in her element, and I love, like, I'm kind of like the ugly, like, friend that you talk to on the side with her. And sort of like the way in, or like, the mate's trying to go for the hot girl and I'm like the ugly friend on the side that they're like, um, trying to bond with to, get in with the hot girl and stuff. And I am so fine with that. Like, like, please don't think that this is like I'm self-deprecating or being like, "No, tell me that I'm pretty." That's absolutely not it. But yeah, I just think it is wild, and I think she's a very good representation, or she's a very good example of having those super high standards and healthy, probably like, yeah, it's like Fort Knox, her boundaries, and she will make you rise to a certain standard or behave a certain way before she'll even look at you twice, which is just amazing. So I think that I don't think it's just men. I think this is a very overall, from what I'm seeing anyway, an overall kind of thing in the dating world because one, we're scared of rejection. Two, putting time and effort when you have, and I actually was even talking about this. Oh my God, this is just so weird. I was talking about dating apps with one of my clients yesterday, and we were talking about how he met his wife on a dating app, and he originally said like, "No, you're not it for me." And he was in London at the time, so he had, thousands of women in his DMs, and yeah, the thing that we agreed and connected on was the small talk part of things. So I'm the worst at not true. I'm great at small talk. I am happy to kind of scratch the surface with somebody I know I'm very rarely never going to see again. But I also like to explore people that I am, I meet or I'm surrounded with because I feel like you can always learn something from people. And I feel like if people are placed in your life, have I have come full circle in believing this to be, like, undeniably true, that that person was placed in front of you for a reason. So I'm always interested in understanding. So I don't like surface level conversations. I wanna get into the real fun shit. Like, tell me you believe in aliens, or tell me that, like, you know, tell me the good stuff. I don't like, yes, siblings is great, and, like, we'll get to that. Obviously, that's an important part of building a relationship, learning about people's families. But, like, give me the goss. Like, tell me the craziest thing you've done. Like, tell me a charity that you really believe in and a cause you truly believe, like all of these things, because that is what is going to make you stand out from. And again, it's been a minute since I've been on any dating apps, but the hey, how's it going? Or hey, how are you? Or the copy and pasted, right? Because I know that some guys do this, copy, and girls may do it too. I'm not just like man hating this morning. Some people literally have on their notes section, like passages of text that they copy and paste into their dating apps because it's just easier and quicker. So because we've got such a selection in front of us, we feel like we don't have to work as hard. However, it's actually the opposite because we're spoiled for choice when it comes to somebody to have a conversation with, or if we're feeling lonely or a type of way, it's a very easy way to find someone to fill that void. But it's a whole other thing to actually invest time, energy, emotion, and all the things when you're not really sure how it's gonna turn out yet. So, just keep that in the back of your head. If you're dating at the moment, like, I would love your stories too, and this is why I actually wanted to find some really good online dating stories, and I've got some coming up for you next week, in the form of some interviews, because I just feel like when I read all of these things about how lonely we are in this life at the moment, when we've never been more connected, I would just love to be able to help in any way that I can bridge that gap. And if I can show you some really positive, true stories about, meeting your love of your life online, and now you've got married, had a kid, bought a house, like, built a life together, and you never would have met that person otherwise. That gives us all something to look at and be like, "Wow, okay, cool." Like, if that has happened for them, that can happen for me. 'Cause it's all about evidence. It's all our brain needs. If you have any stories, send them my way, okay? We need all of the positivity possible in this stage of, like, you know and what I will say now, I am a sucker for maths. I absolutely love maths. I will plan my life around watching it when it's on. And I think that's why I love Love Island as well, because it's like the dating drama, it's the whole thing. But it is literally just the drama that I think and the mind numbingness because I can literally, like, numb out from a busy day and just to be, like, so focused on this. So I don't look at those shows because I know that they're produced and I know that they're scripted and the whole thing, and think like, "Oh my god, they're found there forever." Okay, there are still obviously some of those couples that are married and together and all of the things today, but I feel like in terms of entertainment, like, we really look to shows like that to fill a bit of an entertainment void as opposed to looking at that and being like, "This is goals." So, I can't wait I know they're casting for next year now, for Married at First Sight, so, the little the nosy Nelly in me is, like, dying to find out, you know, what we've got coming up for season 2027, which is wild to say, absolutely wild to say. Okay, next thing I wanna talk about this morning, and it is in a similar vein to kind of the relationship angle. So we're gonna forget dating for a second, and I would love to know if you truly sat and thought about it, when is the last time you made a genuinely new close friend as an adult? And a lot of us can't remember. I feel like I can probably think back to a couple, and it's women that I met in courses or through business, and things like that. But because I don't have a hobby yet, I have some juiciness to share with you tomorrow. Um, but yeah, I feel like maybe and again, I have children, so, you may have kiddie friends and school friends and stuff like that, but again, you get put together in a room for a particular, like, thing. It's not like you necessarily have a common interest, and that's how you formed a bond and a friendship and all of the things. So, what they're seeing in terms of, like, this whole big loneliness pandemic is kind of quietly doing more damage to our health than we actually think. So let's talk some stats. I've become the stats queen, which I've always been the stats queen. I love me some good stats. So adults with 0 close friends, and this has gone up 1 in 33 in 1990 to roughly 1 in 6 today. And if you think back to 1990, okay, phones aren't what they are now. Connection Connectivity and availability, like, is chalk and cheese. And 12% to 17% just between 2021 and 2024. Now, this is US data. I will frame it by saying that. So 1 in 6 people experience loneliness today, and it's increased from 12% to 17% in the last 3 years. That sucks. Okay, in a time where we have literally our people at our fingertips. Like, it is wild, wild to me that we are still struggling with this. So, young men aged 15 to 34 are now described as the loneliest group in the Western world, the same men opting out of dating. So, not only are they removed or choosing not to date, like, it may be the same deal, like fear of rejection or, like, putting yourself out there, meet new people. Like, it may actually be the same reason. I don't know. But an in-person time with friends nearly halved between 2003 and 2020 as screen time climbed past 7 hours a day. So whilst we may be more connected and have more access to each other, we're not doing anything with that access. We are scrolling on TikTok and Instagram. So the stakes aren't soft either. Like, when you actually look at this, so basically, chronic disconnection carries health risks on par with smoking and obesity. So I've touched on this last week or the week before, whatever it was. Oh god, it just makes me so sad. In a time, like I said, where we can be the most connected ever, we are the most lonely. So I guess, like, this is the thing, I suppose, that makes me the most sad out of all of this, is, like, we treated a friendship like it was meant to be effortless, And then, like I said before, adulthood got busy, people moved, the group chat replaced the catch up, and we let people go one unanswered text at a time because, well, they're not putting in effort and they're not doing all the things and whatever. And we've used that as like, I'm protecting my peace because that person doesn't deserve access to me because they're not putting in all of the effort. And I think what you'll find is it'll go one of 2 ways. Either if I'm the loneliest, right, I'm reclusing completely, and I would give anything for people to reach out to me and ask me if I'm okay and whatever. Or you go on the opposite and you ask everybody else how they are in the hope that then that is reciprocated and comes back to you. So, like the saying, "I'm protecting my peace," is doing Olympic level lifting here as well. So, sometimes cutting someone off is health, don't get me wrong. God, keep that circle tight. But if you've cut off everyone and you're alone in your peace, it's like not really peace. So it's more of like a waiting room. Okay. Like how crappy it feels. Again, you've like got a bajillion people around you and you just feel like really, really lonely. So friendship after your 20s isn't found, it's built on purpose. Like, it may be awkwardly and it may be, like, being the one that texts first or reaching out first or who creates this, and it's like I feel like it's almost a bit of a discipline now to actively think to yourself to connect with people, and if you think about the relationships that you built as a kid when you were younger, it was typically when you were put together by your parents, you went to school together, the whole thing, and it's actually not too dissimilar now. Like, we always typically find friendships in our jobs, and some people become closer from working together than friends that you've had for your whole life, basically. So, I really feel like it is a it's similar to dating because you can reach out to someone, connect with someone, and want a friendship with this person because you find them interesting, you enjoy talking to them and whatever, and then they don't turn out to be the person that you thought they were gonna be. Again, that can hurt your feelings and, maybe you ask to catch up 100 times and they continually say no. That can hurt your feelings because you feel rejection. And a point which mum has just made is what we are seeing on social media in terms of comparing and making judgments of people without even having a conversation with them. So you may look at a post that someone's done or, something that people have shared or a person that in your life who shares something and you're like, "Oh god." You're secretly judging them, or maybe they're doing better and you're not, and it's hurting your ego, and therefore you're distancing yourself, and it's like almost like silent quitting on a friendship. It's like, well, I don't really have anything to be mad at you for, but you're making me feel a type of way, so I'm going to back up and disconnect myself from this relationship. So, yeah, it's really, really sucky. So I would love to know, when did you last make a brand new close friend as an adult, and, like, what were the circumstances? Like, how did you come together? Was it a run club? Was it the gym? Was it your kids' school? Was it, a hobby? Or, like, and actually have a real think. And then also have a bit of a think about who you've let drift and you genuinely are missing and what is actually stopping you from texting them today. Now, again, unbelievably perfect timing because the friend that I referred to earlier, I haven't messaged her. We had a little bit of an awkward thing a little while ago, but before that, we were, like, super close, and we are childhood friends. Like, I've known her my whole life. And so, when reaching out to her this morning and just the way that we were texting back and forth, I said to her, I was like, "I really miss you." Like, I I didn't reach out because I didn't love my behavior at the time, and I didn't feel like I was a good friend. So my ego and my, like, guilt basically has stopped me from reaching out to her in the past 12, 18 months because I know that I wasn't the best friend to her, in particular situations. And literally after we were messaging for, like, even 10 minutes before I jumped on this now, and she's like, "We've gotta catch up. I need to know what's going on in your life. Like, I can't wait to tell you about, what I'm up to now." And it was almost like this weight just lifted off my shoulders, and I was like, "I've made all this up in my head. Like, none of how I feel is actually how she feels." So yeah, have a bit of a think about and do a little bit of an order, I guess. And is there anyone that you're friends with just because it's convenient? Like we have, I feel like, some convenient friendships too that, again, you put in the same place, and you have to kind of socialize with these people. Like maybe it's your partner's girlfriends, it's your partner's friends' girlfriends, or your partner's friends' boyfriends. Like either right, you kind of put in a situation where you kind of have to have a something to talk about or, something to connect over so that it's not a boring dinner for you all to go to. And I think and there probably is this actually, I'm pretty sure there would be sort of like a friends version of, Tinder or Hinge or like whatever, and, really genuinely put effort into building a girl gang because when I tell you or actually I've because I was meant to do that today, I'm gonna share basically, I'm gonna call it Millions with Megs. So, like I said, from that, I pulled woo-woo with science, and as part of Napoleon Hill's, Think and Grow Rich, you have this brain's trust of people around you who are your vibe, they lift you up, and who, because we are the sum of I think it's the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So if you think about those people, do they make you feel good? Do they have lives that you think like, "Wow, I would love this for myself?" And yeah, that's something to really think about because if you've got and I had to learn this again the hard and I didn't even learn it actually, I had to be reminded again a couple of years ago when I was going out every weekend, partying every weekend, right? And whilst I was having fun and I was disguising it as like having a break because I was so overwhelmed in my business and I didn't know what the hell to do next, hanging around those people didn't get me close to my goals. In fact, it dragged me further away. So I had to be conscious in I can love them from afar and I do. Okay, I absolutely love and adore these people. They are just my ride or dies. I know that if I needed them, that they would be there in an absolute heartbeat. And so the love is never lost, but just spending a lot of time in that environment doing, things that weren't aligning with where I wanted to go in the future, and like, I could have had self-control and decided that I wasn't going to drink or do other things while I was around them, but I didn't. I know in myself that I don't have that much self-control, and I don't like being around drunk people when I'm not drunk too. So, it's crucial to really make sure you've got those people in your squad who you look up to, who you can, have really vibey conversations with and all of these things because, again, the people that you surround yourself actually have a lot more influence over your life than you quite realize. And if you're partaking in behaviors that aren't going to get you to the next level of your life, you can either hang around them and not do those things, or you can kind of be, not tactful's not the word, like strategic of when you spend time with them and when you sort of see them, which I got good at doing, right? Because I got horrifyingly bad hangovers and we would be out all night doing all the things. And so if I knew that if I was going to be doing that weekend, I literally wouldn't plan meetings for a Monday because I knew I would still be calming down and I would still not have got over my hangover and I would have unbelievable anxiety and guilt because of, I shouldn't be doing that anymore and I should be focusing on my business and, like, I feel like if you can absolutely relate to this. So, really have a think about, um, yeah, the actions that you're taking with the people that you surround yourself with. And if you miss somebody and you think about them, I have a rule that if I think about somebody more than 3 times, I have to message them. Even if I message them nothing, I'm just like, "Hey, I literally will say, "You've come up in my brain a couple of times now. I'm just reaching out to say hi." And I think being an intuitive person like I am, more often than not, like, they have needed to hear from me at that point of time. And there's always been like, "Oh my god, I've been thinking about you too." And, like, you have those cool kind of, like, connections. So, yeah, if you're thinking about somebody and you haven't messaged them, you're like, "Oh, I must do that." Take a second now, unless you're driving, we don't text and drive, to, yeah, reach out and say, "Do you know what? Like, hey, how are ya? Been thinking about you. Hope all is well." You know, you just never know how it could, yeah, you never know what it could open up for you. So there we go. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play you my interview with people from Carma, and then I'm going to come back at the end because I think I may run over time if I don't play that now. So I'm going to play you Peerless from Karma's interview. You're going to love it. It's actually amazing. And then if I have time at the end, I'm going to come back and talk about loud budgeting because it kind of like works really well together, and then we will have a bit of a chat about it. If not, and I've got time to roll it into tomorrow, I will, because I think it's a really important conversation and it's a really interesting thing and transition that we've kind of gone through as a society. So let me play you my interview with Pete, learn all of the car salesman tricks, and if you want to go and test drive a Porsche, a Mercedes, a Lambo, or something this weekend, just to surround yourself with people who buy cars like that, do it, but take Pete's advice first. Okay, if you're thinking about buying a used car, this next segment is perfect for you. So, with the end of financial year behind us, car yards are apparently about to be flooded with stock. And where there's stock, there's always sale tactics waiting to catch you out. And as someone who is a walking beacon of idiots, I feel like walking into a car dealership. I'm excited to get all the good stuff and the strategies next time I want to buy a new car. So my next guest has spent 30 years in the automotive industry and has quite literally seen every trick in the book. He's the director of buying at Carma, Carma. Beautiful. Love it. And his new decoding dealership report is basically a used car buying playbook. So red flags, green flags, and everything to help you avoid a bad buy. Pete Willis, welcome to Mornings with Megs.
Thanks so much, Megs. Thanks for having us.
No, I'm excited to talk to you about this. Like I said, I feel like I can walk into a dealership and they will look at me like, she knows nothing. Let's go and talk to her and overwhelm her.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's probably something that's been seen and felt by many people. So that's hence the reason for putting together this report, to give people some advice and some clear guidance.
Yeah, perfect. That's what we need. So let's talk a little bit. Do you know what? I kind of liken you. You're like the sort of like, obviously we've got red flags and green flags when we talk about dating. You're like the car version of like a dating site. I love it.
Absolutely.
All right. So this was news to me. I didn't realize. And now I guess that, like we say, we chatted a little bit before we jumped on to record. So the market is about to be flooded with stock. So what does this actually mean for buyers walking into a car yard this weekend?
Yeah, look, there's good and bad signs from that. You know, there's stock around, which means there's cars there for people and there's plenty to choose from. But also, you know, the point you made there earlier is there's probably going to be some urgency from dealers and some tactics where they are pushing their agenda and making sure that they get everything that they need when they've got overstock issues and things like that. The overstocking is really a normal part of, you know, the sales for end of financial year. There's been a lot of new cars that have come into the market, and the dealership's been trying to get delivered, so they can report those numbers. So it's not abnormal, but yeah, it's just something that everyone needs to be aware of, and that's good for buyers normally, that there's cars out there, and that means, you know, there's an opportunity for them to buy well.
Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper into that then. I guess, look, rightly or wrongly, or fairly or unfairly, we've kind of got a bit of a idea in our minds what a used car salesman, as they're probably referred to, kind of the approach that they can take. I'm sure it's changed these days. It's been a while since I've walked into a used car dealership for that exact reason, because I get very, very overwhelmed. And I'm more of like an internet buying kind of gal. And checking out your website is amazingly easy to use and it's very aesthetic as well. So for the girlies, that is definitely one for you. So let's talk about those red flags. So we're walking into a dealership this weekend. What are these tactics that we're seeing and what do we need to be looking out for?
Look, there's many. You know, if you really start at the start, one of the things to really understand is what is the price. There's negotiation, there's tactics there, and having real clear pricing, at the point that you're going to commit to buy a car is really important. And that can be multiple things where we've seen, administration costs that are put on at the end, registration surcharges and the like that are put on at the end. Once you've agreed to a price, you think that's the final number, and then there's a price that's at the other end. Is the price that you've got to pay. So making sure that there's a clear price and there is clear pricing when you're looking to buy is probably one of the big pieces. But there's also many others. Fake urgency. Everyone's seen and felt urgency when you're going to buy anything. But when there's a sale involved, there always seems to be something that's more urgent about to happen around the corner. A deal that's only a good deal for today. All of those sorts of urgencies that are placed, and it really rushes a buyer, that may be not ready to do something, to think that they've got to sort of make a commitment to something before they've understood the pricing and things like that. Probably the last one that I really like to sort of emphasize is quality and transparency. Having the time, having that clear, transparent pricing and clear, transparent transaction, everything from the documentation of service history through to, understanding if there's finance or money owing against the car, are real, open and honest pieces that a seller should be really giving to you, if they want to be clear and transparent. So those are probably the top three for me.
Love it. So we've heard terms of like 29,990 drive away. And then also when I've been into dealerships, then we start talking about things like tinting or fabric protection and things like that. Let's talk about, so obviously you've just touched a little bit on, I guess, registration and things like that in terms of like the drive away, no more to pay kind of vibes. And then obviously you've got stamp duty and stuff on top of that. Okay. So I've always wanted to know from someone, when they offer you those extras in terms of like tinting and your paint protection and stuff, like, is it legit or is it just they get a cut and a very good commish for selling these things?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of that, it's all termed as sort of an aftermarket
Hmm.
offering, and quite often it's packaged up into a deal. And if someone's doing it at large volumes, maybe they're selling it to you at a great deal. But generally, it's offered as these package deals, and you get the window tint, the floor mats, and some paint and fabric protection that probably, if you went shopping to commercially see those, you could buy them better anyway. It really comes back to having a firm understanding of what the car that you're looking to buy and what are the things that are really important to you. If you're someone that really loves and dotes on your car, and paint protection might really be something that's valuable to you, or you're someone that you're going to use that car and you're going to use it fairly roughly, is it worth going and spending additional money on things? And fabric protection's great if you've maybe got small kids and animals and things like that. It could be a definite add for you. But if no one else is ever going to sit in the car with you, it's probably lost on you as well.
Yeah, definitely. And something I just thought of while you were talking then as well is obviously when people are looking for cars, they've got a pretty good idea in their minds what they're looking for. So, I guess if you're, like you say, you're a family and you're looking for like a mid-size SUV, or, you're going through your midlife crisis and you want to buy a convertible Mustang, like all these sorts of things. I guess when you kind of do your research and you're going to all these different car yards, how is the best way to firmly say, no, that car might not be for me, especially when there's that pressure to like sign on the dotted line, this car is for you.
Yeah, and there's that pressure and that sort of urgency, and these people do this every day, so they're sort of well groomed, and they know how to sort of have a great conversation and bring you to the point of really wanting to commit to that. But it's an easy one really to break the cycle and just go, look, this is actually a really great offering. It's something that I really need to consider, and I'm just going to take a moment to go and have a coffee, talk to my significant other, make sure that this purchase is the one that I want, or even do the comparison. I'm not going to make a decision today. I'm going to make an informed one, and I'm going to make sure that I've reviewed the two or three that are in the top three of my list. So it is difficult, especially when you've sort of got you're already keen and you want to go and you've already thought about the car parked in the driveway and where you're going in on the weekend. So that is often an urgency that you've put on yourself. But again, just making that clear decision to go, you know what, I'm going to review this. I'm going to make sure that I've compared it against at least 2 or 3 others.
Yeah, that is absolutely me. I've literally driven it in my mind like 7 kilometers before I've even got a set of car keys in my hand, which is again why my dad is always like, "You can never go car shopping on your own because you'll fall in love with something and then walk out with something completely, like, not what you need."
You'll come home with a completely wrong car.
Yeah, yeah, but it's funny because when I went to, buy the car that I've got now, it was because it was quite a higher, like, purchase price, and I was already stressed about the whole thing, and then it was like, "We can do this for $500 extra, and we can do this for, like, $2,000 extra," and in my head, I was like, "Shit, I have just spent a lot of money on this vehicle," and now I'm like, "Oh my god, are you gonna judge me because I've already put myself in this bracket of luxury car buying, and now she won't even spot for the $500 whatever."
Absolutely. But see, it's also good to sort of set that upper limit, to set that limit to
Mhm.
go, this is the top price. This is I can't spend any more than this, and being firm with that. It's easier said than done. I'm completely aware of that, but it's definitely one of those points. Having a clear understanding of what you want to buy, and setting that clear upper limit.
Yeah, gotcha. So let's talk about limits then in terms of negotiations in your history. And I'm always fascinated by this as well because I'm like, well, this is the price you've advertised it at. You've told me if I sign on this dotted line right now, all of a sudden you can take like X amount of price off of it. When we're going into these car yards and having these price negotiations, how much wiggle room as a consumer do we actually have?
Yeah. And I think the key point to remember here is if you're buying a really desirable car and a real high quality car, there's generally not a lot of movement. And the point around that is you go, because it's a car that a lot of people are going to want to buy, the dealer will know that it's desirable, and they've probably already got multiple people inquiring on that car, so there's generally not a lot of movement. When you do find that there's a lot of movement, it's always a nerve-wracking piece, because if a dealer is willing to advertise and then move a price by many thousands, maybe it was advertised too high to start with, or maybe there's something else that you're not really seeing, this part of the picture that you haven't really seen. So it's definitely one of those points around those quality and transparency aspects, where you're looking at a car and there's a deal on the table and the deal's much better than what the car's been offered at. That would be a big red flag for me, to come back and go, why is this car been offered at a price and now it's much less? But if you come back to the point I sort of made early, having your understanding of the car that you want, having done some research and knowing, roughly where those cars sit, you should have all your cars should be, in a very tight circle. And then it's about, getting the best deal you can from there, but not skimping on the best car. Negotiations, fantastic. And if you can get things, always everyone wants to buy better. And, with the way the cost of living is today, every dollar you can save is a dollar earned. So it's definitely a key, but, making sure that you don't miss the best car, for the need to negotiate.
Yeah, gotcha. So I guess in terms of the buyer behavior in the last 5 years, for example, and I know, like, and this is just obviously what I heard about, like, when COVID, when everyone was like buying new cars because it was cheaper than used cars or like something around that. Have you seen in the last few years in particular a change in buyer behavior in terms of comparing online versus going into car yards?
So there's lots of change around that. We've seen enormous amount of change from the COVID years. There was a supply of new cars that was just very thin, so that put a lot of pressure on. And supply and demand is essentially the key. It's the key to any sales. There was a low supply, which meant there was a still consistent demand, and that put huge pressure on the price of new cars, and then the price of cars generally went up because of that. Over the last couple of years, you've now seen, that sort of really stabilize, and, the used car market is back to a very good value proposition for people. And that's great because it's always where it should be. But the comments around, and the thought around online buying and the online search, most people do a fair bit of work online. Most people have done, most of their digging and research online before they get out there, which is great to do because you've got all your ducks in a row. You know the cars you want to buy, the features they need to have, and then hopefully you can go and select the best out of those.
Yeah, it's a lot easier, I suppose, when especially if you're like, I'm based in South Australia, so driving from like one end of my state to the other for car shopping, it's a
Yeah.
hike.
So it's a long way. Yeah. I
It
was I
is.
was actually in South Australia last weekend. So
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, it's yeah, as you know, like I can drive 2 hours and literally just to kind of reach the outer suburbs from one to the other. So it's yeah,
it's
car
fast.
buying.
But the point
Yeah, it's
the point
wild.
there is for everyone across, even if you're thinking about somewhere like Melbourne or Sydney, the spread of dealerships that might have the particular car you want, can be quite often hundreds of kilometers. So, to be able to do that work online and then sort of be able to select and shortlist the highly desirable or the best cars in your bucket, then it's a key.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point, right? Like you can go on any of these websites and including Carma to, pick it's your make and your model and that's what you want. And I guess location becomes a little bit less of a thing these days.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. You can do a lot of that research initially, which saves you a lot of time.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so talk to me a little bit more about the Decoding Dealerships report. If people go on and have a squizzy at that, what can we expect to see?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's been put together by the experts at Karma, really to understand the differences. The red flags that you really, should be looking out for, but also the green flags you should be demanding. So, touching on a couple of those green flags, you've got, some real keys. Reputation, and like we were just discussing, reputation you can sort of really understand online well now with Google reviews and online platforms for that. You can really get a good understanding for dealerships that are really into driving customer experience and making sure that they are transparent with their dealings. A few other things, a comprehensive test drive, is another paramount. Maybe test driving the car for 5 minutes is great for some people, but that quick squiz around the block with the salesperson playing with the radio and telling you all about the fancy features of the car is probably not the best way to really understand if that car is a great car or if it's even going to suit you for your purpose. And probably the last one is the ability to have an independent inspection. And that's a huge key as well, to be able to ensure that someone else has had a look over that car and made sure that it is all the things it should be and, that you haven't missed or overseen, something else in those checks that you've done yourself. So there's some of the good green flags, but as I say, it's more about really ensuring that buyers have got some confidence, but also having some understanding of some of the things that are important when they're going out to doing that. I mentioned it earlier about logbooks and service history. I will say the logbook is always the most important thing when you're going to look at a used car. That'll give you the picture of how the car's been serviced, how it's been owned, sometimes even the locations. You'll sort of know the areas that it's sort of lived. And then once you go from there, you make sure that the logbook lines up with the car, that it matches what the car looks like for the Ks and things that it's done. And then lastly, making sure, PPSR, finance, and that you've gone and actually checked those out yourself. You can do an independent check on the PPSR register. It costs you $2. It's a government website, and it'll tell you if the car's stolen or if there's any money owing. If you make sure you do those things, you put yourself in a good position to really understand, what you're going to buy, and then hopefully set yourself up for a great purchase and a car that will serve you well.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, right? And it's funny as you're saying, like the way the dealerships are attracting customers these days. Like I've seen some dealerships with the funniest TikTok accounts ever. Like, and I'm like, I would buy from these people. These people seem like a vibe.
Absolutely.
It's
There's
fun,
some
right?
there's some quite entertaining things now, which is obviously it's great to see. But if people are driving the right outcomes and driving the right transparency, and yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've touched on a bucket load of points here, but I just want to just make sure if for anybody that has decided that, yep, I'm ready for a new car or a used car. I suppose if they're walking into a dealership this weekend, just to wrap up the absolute non-negotiables that they need to insist before signing anything.
Absolutely non-negotiable. As I said, logbooks 100%. Make sure you've taken your time and that the dealers afforded you the opportunity to really review them properly. Comprehensive test drive, making sure you get a quality test drive and a long test drive to make sure you get that right. Checking out the documentation and paperwork and ensuring your finance stolen, you do that check online. Absolutely non-negotiable. You do those things and you set yourself up well for a quality purchase. And if there's anything in there that feels like it's too good to be true, or it feels like there's something quite off, that's the time to take a moment, pause, and and really have a closer look and a more detailed look at things.
Yeah, awesome. All right, where can people find more information about you and about Karma?
Absolutely. Our website, karma.com.au. We have around 800 cars online at the moment. We've got 360 spin. They've got a full visual there. We've got an inspection and reconditioning process. It's verified by the NRMA. We deliver the car to your door and you get 7 days to test drive and with a full money back guarantee. So take away all the pain and problems out of looking for your next car and the website, as you said, is very slick and a nice place to sort of, find your next new car.
Definitely. We'll pop all of those links. Pete, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much. Cheers, Megs.
All right. Oh my God.
Fascinating, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's the girl's guide to car buying. And guys, obviously we don't discriminate. Okay, that's the show. So I've got a reminder tomorrow. I've got my mum coming on board. So we're doing follow through Fridays so that we don't just say things, we actually, take actions to complete them and we're on track with them. I'm going to let you all know what I'm actually committing and sticking to. It's really cool as well. And yeah, mum's going to kind of let you all know how she's going to keep me accountable, what we're going to be doing, and all of the things. So have the most beautiful day. Tomorrow is Friday. I was like, shit, what day is it tomorrow? And I will be on live with mum tomorrow, same time, same place. Have the best day. Bye.